vice chairperson of LEAP Texas, and now he's the chair, correct? And so currently LEAP is associated with the AAC&U LEAP value rubrics, and so LEAP Texas has its own regional or state organization that's been around for what, 7, 8 years now? Around about 8 years. And there's actually an annual conference that they hold. It usually takes place in the spring, and this year it's going to be in Houston in March. So I know Dr. King will probably mention this, but if you go to leaptx.org, you'll find more information about that particular conference. And it's very worthwhile in terms of assessment, and you'll get a lot of great information. I've actually attended several times, and so has my team. So please look for that. Also, Dr. King has been a participant in the UEAC for the state of Texas and looking at the core, and so he's very well versed with that in terms of assessment, and so that's kind of what he got him started on this path. And so without further ado, I'll welcome Dr. King to the podium, and please give him a nice round of applause.
I will see if I can pull up my presentation here. What do I need to do? Hit escape. Just go. Okay, here we go. There we go. Got it. I'm happy to be with you today and talk to you about signature work. I hope you can hear me okay. And, hope you can see the screens okay. I think there's probably plenty of screen. I know some of you are disappointed because you thought the old guy from CNN was going to be here. I tell people that Larry King is really my name. It's not really his name because it's not really his name. His name is Lawrence Harvey Ziegler, I believe. And he took that name when he was on the radio in Miami. He took it in 57, and I was born in 58, so he had it, I guess, before I did, but it's really my name. It's on my birth certificate. It's not on his birth certificate. Also, I tell people that I'm not as old as him. I like to think that I'm better looking than him. I haven't been married as many times as he has. He just got divorced from his 6th wife. Yeah. He's 80-something years old. 6th wife. And I don't know if he'll have another wife, but he might. You never know. And I don't make as much money as he does, or has, in his lifetime, that's for sure. Higher education, not quite as lucrative as what he does. So, signature work. The topic today is signature work. How do you define signature work? Well, if you take a look at the literature and you listen to folks that do training on this topic of what signature work is, you will find a variety of different definitions. There's not one unanimous definition of what signature work is. The AAC&U, are you familiar with AAC&U, American Association of Colleges and Universities? And LEAP Texas is affiliated with the AAC&U. Their LEAP project is a project that was started by AAC&U, designed to help push out to the country some projects and some initiatives. And one of those projects and initiatives was to involve students in some significant work. Involve students in meaningful activities, meaningful work in class and in their career at a college or a university. So, as part of this whole concept of signature work, AAC&U basically says there's some common features or purposes that you can identify. Require students to demonstrate and apply their proficiency in one or more key learning outcomes. That often means having them synthesize things, analyze things, applying information that they have learned throughout their careers at an institution to some sort of problem. And for AAC&U, that concept of a problem is very important. Very often, if you hear folks from AAC&U talk about signature work, they'll talk about wicked problems. Wicked problems. Those are things that really perplex us as a society and make us have to scratch our heads and sit and think about, how are we going to solve this problem? So AAC&U really looks at signature work as something that gets students involved in thinking about and working on problems that are common in our society that we need solutions to. And the concept in that is it gets students to start thinking about when they are out of school, what will they be doing to make society better? What will they be doing to contribute to society? Because part of AAC&U and the LEAP project, LEAP, what does that stand for? It stands for Liberal Education, America's Promise. And that stands for the fact that we want everybody to be educated, we want everybody to be participating, we want everybody to have the benefits of education in our country. And that's what we're all about. And so they focus on those wicked problems and talk about those wicked problems because they want to make sure that everybody can participate in solving those problems as well. AAC&U also says it may follow a theme across curricula and co-curricular activities tied to the institutional mission or features of the surrounding community, allowing students to apply their knowledge and abilities to meaningful questions over time. And again, that fact of they are concerned about and interested in getting students involved in thinking about coming up with solutions to problems that we may face in our communities, and specifically tied to the communities that our colleges may be in. We also note that at some institutions they may include specific components such as real-world applications, reflective writing, collaborative work. So that real-world application, again, is important for AAC&U. Many institutions, they include, signature work includes things like writing about what the students have learned over their entire career at an institution, their time at an institution. Working together with other people, not just working in isolation by themselves, but working with teams of folks or groups of folks. And let's face it, our students, when they get out of school, are going to have to work with other people. They don't like it when they're in our classes. One of the classes I teach is teamwork. And they work in teams pretty much every class period. Working on problems, coming up with solutions to things. Trying to teach them those skills of how do you work with people in teams, working on projects. Students hate projects, but they have to work with teams. And I always tell my students when they have to work in a team project, these are skills that you need to learn now, because when you get out in the real world, it's going to be the same sort of thing. You're going to have people that don't do their work on your job. When you're working in a team with other people, there's going to be people that don't do what they're supposed to be doing. How do you deal with that? How do you cope with that? How do you function in that situation? So that's what AAC&U has to say. One other thing that AAC&U has to say about these types of assignments or work, it says the most distinctive feature of signature assignments is the way the program integrates them across the educational pathway to help students demonstrate their growth. make connections across curriculum and co-curriculum, and apply their knowledge to real-world problems. Again, real-world problems. AAC&U is also very interested in making sure that when we're dealing with signature work, when we're creating signature assignments, that they reflect what's going on across the curriculum, and they talk about things being horizontal and also vertical, so that students can see connections across all of their classes that they're taking. And sometimes when you have students in core curriculum classes, they say, I don't understand why I'm taking all this stuff. What is all this junk that I have to take? Well, one answer is, well, the state of Texas says you have to. Another answer is, hey, let's do something to help students understand how all of these things they take are connected. And let's make sure that all these things they take are connected. And there's some common connection there. And I was on the Undergraduate Education Advisory Committee when the Texas core curriculum was reorganized and redesigned. I tell people, if you want to get on a coordinating board committee that doesn't do anything, then don't get on one with me. Because evidently, every time they decide they're going to do some kind of major redesign, they put me on a committee. I was on the formula funding committee when they redesigned the formula funding, and then I got on the Undergraduate Education Advisory Committee when they redesigned the core curriculum. And usually, I don't know if any of you have ever been on coordinating board committees. A lot of times they don't even meet. You're put on the committee and they don't even meet, but for some reason it's like when they stick me on a committee. If you see my name, if you get put on a committee, you see my name, run. Run the other way. It's not my fault, but for some reason they stick me on those committees. So they're very concerned with making sure that students can see connections between those courses that they take and why they're taking them. And then apply that all the way through, vertically, through the curriculum. Now, Driscoll says a signature assignment is a generic task, problem, case, or project that can be tailored or conceptualized to align with a particular course or discipline. It's well aligned with the learning outcomes, is authentic in terms of process and content, may address real-world application, and may include reflection on learning. Very similar in some respects to the AAC&U statements, but probably a little more practical than the AAC&U statements. Another explanation of what signature assignments are. It's the assignment or exam that best displays the knowledge or skill essential to the objective of a course. So these signature assignments should capture those things that you expect students to be coming out of a course being able to do, or out of a program being able to do. Other coursework should build toward the completion of the course signature assignment. So you've got other things going on in the course, but they help the students complete that signature assignment in the course. They build on each other. Think of a signature assignment as a milestone in the student's progress toward fulfilling the program objectives. Ideally, signature assignments are types of works that students and professors would most like to present to others as evidence of accomplishment. And this statement comes from a university in California, Lutheran University, and they make the point that signature assignments are something that students could be proud of, that they would want to sign off on, that they would want to show people. So from their perspective, when we say signature, They really take it literally. These are assignments that students would want to put their names on. They're proud of this work. A lot of times our students aren't very proud of their work. Sometimes I get students that turn their assignments in without their names on it, so it's pretty clear that they're not very proud of it. I have to try to figure out who it is. Bottom line statement, signature assignments require students to demonstrate and apply their proficiency in one or more key learning outcomes. And again, that is from AAC&U. Let me go back to those definitions. Do you see some common elements in those definitions? Any common elements that you see in those definitions? Yes? Related back to the learning outcomes. So this whole process has to begin with the learning outcomes. And we'll talk more about what are the steps in doing this. But they're all tied back to the learning outcomes. So you have to really clarify your learning outcomes before you can start developing signature assignments. What else? Real world. These are not something that's just hypothetical out there in the ivory tower somewhere, but it's something that's tied to what's going on in the real world. And very often in the life of the students. And I like that statement about in the community. If they can be tied to what's going on in the community, where the college is situated, where the students are situated, that's even better. What else? Anything else that you see common to these? Reflection. Reflection is often a common characteristic of these. The students have to think about what's been going on in their educational career, what they've learned. Those courses that they may see sometimes as being totally disconnected with each other and I'm not sure why I have to take this. Many times, signature assignments force students to think about those connections and to make those connections that they might not otherwise make and that unfortunately many times we don't make either and make it clear for them. Any other elements that you see? Yes? Helping the students see the big picture. Definitely. So they get to take a look at all that they've done and what they've been doing while they've been at the institution and what does all that mean? And then apply it. Apply it to something that is valuable to them, valuable to other people as well. So you can probably start seeing how signature assignments can be a showcase for students' success, students' performance, and can also be a showcase for your programs and for your institution, and the success for your institution. So why do we use signature assignments? Why do we use signature work? There's some what I call aspirational reasons, kind of high-level reasons that we would use signature work. And this is from AAC&U. Signature assignments that vertically and horizontally span the curriculum create a structure for students to build proficiencies through their undergraduate experience. So, they provide a framework around which students can start building some proficiencies, things that we want them to leave their experience at our institutions with. And as I said, AAC&U likes to talk about vertical and horizontal spanning of the curriculum. That you have connections through all those courses they take, and then as they go up through those courses, you have connections that they are making. And notice here it says they can produce meaningful examples of their learning that document their progress and cumulative skills and abilities. Signature work, if it's done correctly and incorporated throughout the curriculum, students can then look back and identify milestones at which they accomplished certain things. And the institution can look back, if need be, if somebody asks you for that sort of thing. I wouldn't know who would ask you for that sort of thing. They might be, one of those organizations with lots of initials. Another point on why we use signature work from AAC&U, to ensure that we are setting up students for long-term professional success. Notice that. AAC&U is looking forward to, when students get out of school, these skills that they develop while they are working on those signature assignments can help them after they get out of school. So we want, with the signature assignments, again, going back to them being a real world thing, to reflect what they will be doing when they get out of school. The skills that they need, the knowledge that they need, the abilities that they need when they get out of school into their professional lives. That's what those signature assignments need to be focusing on. Humphrey says that our curricula, including the work we assign students to do across curricula, must build their capacity to succeed and flourish in a world of complexity, challenge, and interdependency. Now that's pretty aspirational, right? But the fact of the matter is, our students are going out into a world that there are a lot of things going on. And technology is constantly changing. The workplace is constantly changing. And so these sorts of assignments can help the students deal with those things. They're constantly working with teams in the real world when they get into their profession. These types of assignments can help students build skills to help deal with those things that they will face in their professional life. Humphreys also says to ensure that we are setting up students for long-term professional success, all students need direct experience across the curriculum, probing, tackling unscripted problems. So all students need these skills in how do we problem solve. And signature work, signature assignments provide opportunities for students to get those skills of dealing with problems that they might not get otherwise sitting in class listening to a lecture. So developing those skills is very important for our students to be successful. Kane says signature assignments engage students in their learning, so students are more engaged in what they are learning and focusing on. Enable programs, including general education, to collect common data across course sections for program assessment and review. Nobody in here would be interested in that, right? Again, one of those organizations with lots of letters in the name of the organization might be interested in looking to see what our students are doing and what sort of work they are accomplishing. And we as educators should be interested in it also, because if our students are not accomplishing what we say they're accomplishing, we need to do something about that. If they can't demonstrate those learning outcomes, we need to be doing something about that. Establish the learning outcomes are being met in general education and capstone level courses. Foster curricular alignment. That's an important concept. Do we really sit down and think about how our curriculum is aligned with our learning outcomes? Well, doing signature work can force us to do that if we don't do it Develop student self-reflection. Get them to think about themselves and their learning experience and what they have done throughout their career is very important. Some practical reasons. Demands for accountability by public, employers, government mean that we need to show that students are learning what we say they are learning. In today's environment in higher education, we can't say any longer, our students are doing fine. They're learning what we say they're learning. You just, tend to yourself and we'll tend to them and, don't bother us. Parents are concerned to make sure that their students are getting out of colleges what we say they're getting. Employers are concerned to make sure that we are turning out students that can actually function in the workplace and know how to deal with problems in the workplace. So we need to make sure, and through signature work, we can demonstrate to parents, we can demonstrate to legislators, we can demonstrate to accrediting agencies, we can demonstrate to parents that students are gaining what we say they are gaining and learning what we say they are learning. We can use signature work for assessment at the programmatic level, also even at the institutional level. We can use signature work. Okay, how has signature work been used? What are people doing with it? And there's a variety of different institutions across the country doing different things with signature work. Very often it's used in general education when multiple courses meet a common set of requirements and shared outcomes. Very often signature assignments are required to make sure that students are meeting those outcomes and students can demonstrate proficiency in the outcomes that the general education core requires. And in the state of Texas is so nice, they give us all our general education learning outcomes. Wasn't that nice of them? It's much better. Were any of you around when we had the exemplary educational objectives, the EEOs? Anybody around when we had EEOs? You remember how many? There were like 30 something. Yeah. We used to have, before we had the core that we have now, we had exemplary educational objectives, and there were like 35 of them. How do you assess 35 learning outcomes? It was crazy. Now we're down to a manageable number of learning outcomes. Multiple sections of the same course are being offered by different faculty, and you got different pedagogy going on. You've got some sections that are face-to-face, you've got some sections that are online, you've got some sections that are hybrid, you've got some sections that are Zoom. Did I leave something out? Is there another modality? I'm sure they're going to come up with one just any day now. There's going to be some other way to teach classes very soon. You can use signature assignments to see across all of those different teachers and all those different modalities of teaching, are students getting out of those courses what they need to be getting out of. And it can be a common sort of assignment that can be used across all those sections. You can also use signature work, and institutions have used signature work when institutions are trying to meet varied programs and department outcomes across the institution. It gives a common set of data that people can draw from and look at and to determine if are we meeting those outcomes across all of these different programs across our institution. What's some advantages? One advantage is faculty have to sit down and discuss student learning, pedagogy, and assessment. That may be one of the more difficult things that we do, but it also can be one of the most beneficial things and one of the most positive things that can happen. Is for faculty to actually sit down and discuss what do students need to be learning. And how should we be teaching that? And how in the world are we going to assess that if we say that's an outcome? It's also beneficial because signature work provides a common set of data that you can draw from, document, assess, and show how students are doing at the institution. And you can use that to demonstrate to yourselves and to other people that you are meeting the goals and objectives that you have established. Another advantage is that signature work gives us insight about how we are doing on our learning outcomes. We get insight into, are our students really doing what we say they should be able to do, or are they not? It also is engaging for the students. It gets them involved in doing something that is really meaningful. And also something that they can see, that they can use later in their careers. Very often in college, we give students a lot of busy work to do, and they don't see any real connection to it. But a signature assignment should be connected to what students are really going to be doing in their careers and in their future. Signature assignments can help guide pedagogy. It can lead to discussions of what's the best way to teach this outcome. What's the best way for students to learn these things? And it may not be for a lecture. There may be many other ways that we can better equip students to reach the outcomes that we have. Also, there's an important potential for application or transfer to departments and institutions of the information that we gain. So, students may be doing a signature assignment in one department, in one program, and that information maybe you need to feed that information over to another program. As students are doing their signature assignment, you notice they aren't writing very well. That information may need to be fed over to the English department for some work in that area. So what's the challenges? Big challenge. Time. Everybody's got extra time, right? You just sit around all day in your office, looking at Facebook, reading the latest tweets. We don't have a lot of time. You know, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm rushing and running every day. And when I was in the Office of Student Learning and Institutional Assessment at Stephen F. Austin, I would go in to work in the morning and I would think, okay, this is what I'm going to accomplish today. But there were about 95 things that happened that I never expected to happen that kept me from accomplishing what I thought I was going to accomplish that day. So time is not a commodity that's easy to come by. And faculty are very, and I teach 4 courses, so I know very well, faculty time is filled up. I advise students, I teach courses, I have to go to meetings, and I like nothing better than to go to meetings. I work with LEAP. I do lots of different things. And so my time is a premium to me. So time is a big issue. Sometimes when we think about signature assignments, people may think it's too confining. You know, if we all get together and develop an assignment together, it may be too prescriptive. It may be too rigorous. It may be too limiting on me. Maybe too rigid for me. But signature assignments really should be developed in a way that allows for adaptation. You can adapt them across the curriculum. You can also adapt them within one section of a course to another course. So they really should be developed in a way that allows for people to adapt the signature assignment, but still accomplish what the signature assignment intends to accomplish. Another big issue is it requires faculty agreement. Okay, I'm a faculty member. I can just say it. You know, we don't agree on anything, and sometimes we're just disagreeable to be disagreeable. It depends on how class went that day. You know, but I think if you focus faculty on the fact that this is being done for students and to benefit students, and it does benefit students. Some of the most productive and exciting things that I've ever been involved in assessment was sitting with faculty at Stephen F. Austin and assessing, we were assessing student writing. But we were talking about what do we expect of our students writing. And this was faculty from across the entire university. It was not faculty just from the English department, although there were English faculty there. There were faculty from science, math, history, all sorts of faculty. And as far as I know, those conversations were the first conversations like that that had ever taken place at Stephen F. Austin. Now, I've been at Stephen F. Austin 21 years, and I heard lots of people complaining about student writing from all parts of the university. But nobody had ever gotten together faculty to sit down and talk about student writing and what we expect our students to do in writing. But that was some of the most exciting times, was to sit with faculty and talk with them about what they really expect their students to be able to do. And from all different disciplines all across the institution. So yeah, faculty can be disagreeable sometimes. But I think if you focus on this is for the students and this is for the good of the students, I mean, we're there for the students. If I wasn't there for the students, I wouldn't be teaching. I would be doing something else with my life. How do we get started? Well, get faculty together, get them to review one or more of the agreed upon target learning outcomes, and come to a common interpretation of that learning outcome that they can all understand. And you say, well, we all know what our learning outcomes are. We all agree on our learning outcomes. No, you don't. We have these institutional learning outcomes. We have the learning outcomes that have been given to us by the state of Texas for the core. And I've sat in meetings sometimes and just been amazed at how people will interpret those learning outcomes that are in the core curriculum. Even when we were sitting in the UEAC meetings, it was kind of amazing to me sometimes how people would try to interpret those learning outcomes. So get faculty to discuss those learning outcomes, whether it's a program learning outcome, whether it's an institutional learning outcome, whether it's the state core learning outcome. Get them to discuss those and what do they mean, and come to a common understanding of them. Then they use the learning outcome to brainstorm possible and aligned tasks and problems. So what are some problems? And again, we go back to the fact, what kind of problems are we looking for? We're looking for real world problems. Not some fake made up problem, but a real world problem that students can work on. And not some made up task that's busy work, but task that is aligned to what they're going to be doing in their careers when they get out of the institution. First draft of the assignment is generic. It should be generic. There shouldn't be a specific context tied to it. It should be more general. That way, multiple disciplines can add context to it as you move forward. So if you're dealing with something like, for example, the core curriculum, you've got lots of different disciplines represented in the core curriculum. And people have asked me multiple times, how in the world does the coordinating board expect us to assess teamwork in a biology course? Good question. And then you assess teamwork over here in a communication course. Well, the way you assess teamwork in biology is going to be different than the way you assess teamwork in communication. So If you're going to be using a signature assignment that's going to cut across disciplines, you need to think about it being as generic as possible so that it can be applied to different disciplines. The assignment is tailored for varied courses or disciplinary contexts. So the next step in this process is that the disciplines, the courses, tailor that assignment that's generic to their needs and to their specific areas. All faculty users agree to use and to collaborative review of student work assignments. So all the faculty that are going to be involved in this process have to use that assignment and have to agree to using that assignment. That may be a difficult task too. We found out at Stephen F. Austin as we assessed our core we would go and collect student work that was signature assignments that had been developed by the faculty in each area of the core. We found out very quickly that there were some faculty that just said, I'm not doing this. This is stupid. I'm not going to do it. Well, again, I think if you focus back on the fact that this is not just a mandate that's being given to us, but this is really for the students and to demonstrate our students are learning what we say they're learning, I think that changes the conversation. But you're still going to have faculty that don't want to participate. And again, I'm saying this as a faculty member. One of the things I studied in my PhD program was change management. And one thing that change management tells us is that you got some people that are never going to change. No matter what you do, no matter what incentives you offer them, no matter how nice you are to them, there's some people that are never going to change. There's some people that are going to change later, some people that change quickly, some people change later, but some people that will never change. They're going to be dragging up the reader on the change. Faculty engage in conversations about expectations and student work. Preferably design a rubric. Come up with a rubric that is used to assess that signature work. Now, I'll give you an advertisement. The AAC&U has the values rubrics. How many of you have looked at the values rubrics from AAC&U? Okay, a few of you. Everybody else should go pull those up and look at them. One advantage of those rubrics is that they were developed nationally by the AAC&U, and they were developed by content experts. So the communication rubric was developed nationally by people that are knowledgeable in communication. And they went through a long process of developing those rubrics. And they've been using those rubrics over time, and they have been validated over time. So if you're looking for general outcomes like critical thinking, communication, teamwork, ethics, those sort of things, you might find them in a good example of rubric in the AAC&U value rubrics. So you can get those down. And at Stephen F. Austin, when we were assessing core work, what we did was we met with the faculty committees and said, you know, you can do what you want to do. We're not going to tell you what to do as far as the rubric goes. You can develop your own rubric. There are multiple rubrics out there that will measure lots of these things that are in the core curriculum. But you might want to take a look at the AAC values rubrics. Most of our rubrics at Stephen F. Austin for core curriculum assessment ended up being pretty much the AAC&U value rubrics. Some of them were slightly changed for our campus. And by the way, AAC&U says adapt those rubrics to your campus and to your learning outcomes. You don't have to just take them and use them as they are. And they encourage you to adapt them. So some of them were adapted. But you may want to develop your own rubric. And sometimes, you know, there may be learning outcomes that there's not a rubric that people can all agree on. So they may want to develop their own rubric. And that's fine too. All right. Where can you find examples of signature assignments? Well, NIOLA has the assignment library. NIOLA, the National Institute for Outcome Learning Assessment, has a library of assignments that have been contributed from across the country by a variety of different institutions. And there are a variety of disciplines represented there. And let me go up here and maybe I can go to the website. I'll try to go to the website. This is the library assignment website at NIOLA. And you can see the different disciplines that are represented there. A good variety of disciplines represented. And also they have them tied to the DQP proficiencies. If you are familiar with the DQP proficiencies and you may use those at your institution, they have assignments that are tied to those. They also have assignments at different degree levels in the library. So you can look at those. If faculty say to you, well, we don't know where to go, we don't know what to do, can you give us some examples? This would be a good place to go. Refer them to it, or you look through it and pick out some good examples that might be helpful to them as they start developing their signature assignments. In general, I think the work of developing signature assignments is valuable work because, as I said, it does give us an opportunity to demonstrate that our students are learning what we say they're learning, and for them to realize that they are learning what we say they are learning. And I have sent my PowerPoint, and I think that will be made available to all of you. So if I had my glasses, I could actually see what I'm doing. It'll be made available to you, and there's some references for you that you might want to some references that I made available to you. All right, commercial. How many of you, your institution participates in Leap Texas? You're a member of Leap Texas. Okay, the rest of you need to join. Leap Texas is an organization that was started by a group of folks that were involved in the core curriculum redesign with the UEAC, and other folks that were interested as well. And part of the process of redesigning the core curriculum was to really look at AAC&U's work and the work that they had done on learning outcomes and the outcomes that they have identified. And if you know anything about AAC&U, they identified the learning outcomes that they identified based on what employers, they did a lot of national work based on employers and what employers say they expect people to do when they graduate from college. The UEAC also did work in Texas and looked at Texas employers. And if you wonder why those learning outcomes are what they are, it's because a lot of it, employers in the state of Texas, those were things that they said students need to be able to do. This is what they look for in employees when they get out of college. So, a group of us said, hey, we want to continue this conversation with AAC&U. And we did, and that led us to the Leap States initiative from AAC&U, which is a national initiative. And Texas became, I think, the 6th Leap state. I think that's right. I think we were the 6th Leap state. And we're kind of weird in Texas because we don't have a coordinating board that really controls higher education. It just kind of oversees higher education. In a lot of states, like for example California, their higher education board is very, very much involved in what goes on at campuses and universities. So we were kind of different. We were just an independent group of people that got together and said, hey, we want to do this. And we were able to accomplish that. And Leap, Texas has been operating for about, I think about 8 years now. We've been having a conference for 7 years. And our conference is coming up on March the 29th through the 31st. And people come to that conference from, really, it's a Texas conference, but people come from all over the country. And we always get very positive feedback. People feel like they get a lot from it. It doesn't just focus on assessment, though. That's part of it. But because that's part of the LEAP initiative, is really looking at student work and our students getting out of their work, what we say they're getting out of it. But it covers a wide variety of different things. So we would like for you to come and join us. The link is right there. You can go to leaptex.org. Don't go to leaptexas.com because I don't know what that is. But it's something else. And at that conference, we will be having some great keynote speakers, plenary speakers. Michael has talked many times before at the old A&M Assessment Conference. Some of you may have been to the A&M Assessment Conference. He's been to that conference before, and we're having him come to Leap, Texas this year. And we're excited to hear Frances. This will be the first time that I've heard Frances at this conference, but I understand that she's a great speaker and has some important things to say to us. Okay, that is all I have to say, I guess, unless you have questions for me. And I think I have a question and answer session after this.